Welcome to our 7th season covering the best small school conference in Illinois, the NUIC. In 2022, the NUIC will be chasing its 6th consecutive state title and looking for its 16th state title in 18 seasons. Galena Winslow returns as back-to-back state champs and are the early favorites to capture their 6th state title since 2010. In the meantime, up-and-comer Du-Pec returns as the defending conference champs and are looking for another big season in 2022. We can't forget about the Forreston Cardinals, the one team that has been a nemesis to Galena Winslow, and have brought home 3 state titles since 2014 themselves. In the hunt will be Galena and Fulton. Both have a lot of talent to replace from a season ago, but bring back good foundations to build on. Dakota and Stockton have the numbers, 52 and 47 respectively, to make a run at a playoff eligibility, while EPC is banking on some defensive experience to help build on for 2022. Returning to the conference schedule are the West Carroll Thunder, who sat out the varsity schedule a season ago due to low numbers. We anticipate another fun-filled, action-packed football season with recognition across the state, as we should see quite a few teams in the state rankings once again. We're going to go through and break down each team, what they have returning, what their schedule looks like, and we're going to bring that to you right now. We're going to start off with the Stockton Blackhawks. A season ago, Stockton went 3-6, missing out on the playoffs, and they look to return quite a few players this year, most notably Michael Haas, who was their offensive line and defensive line that received all conference honors a season ago. One of the team weaknesses that Coach Lightson has put out is that they must replace a lot of total offensive yards from a season ago. Team strengths is that they do return some key pieces from the offensive line and the secondary on defense. Coach Lightson feels that their keys for success are to be able to play fundamentally sound on both sides of the ball and win the turnover margin each week. He expects Galena Winslow, Du-Pec, and Forreston to be the top teams in the NUIC, and his expectations for the season are to compete each week and ultimately be playing their best football at the end of the season. One of the things that we look for out of Stockton is definitely the fact that they should be formidable enough to be able to get back into that playoff hunt contention. I do agree with his assessment that Stockton should be more competitive as the season moves forward. When you take a look at who they have returning, we already mentioned Michael Haas on both the offensive and defensive lines. He will be a junior this year, had 45 total tackles a season ago. Returning at running back is going to be Jace Phillips. He had 374 yards rushing a season ago, and on defense he is also at linebacker, where he had 71 total tackles. Joining him in the backfield will be Dustin Oppold, who ran for 318 yards, and at linebacker as well with 37 total tackles. Other notables that are going to be returning are Dawson Brocious on the offensive line and Noah Hess at wide receiver and defensive back. Some top newcomers that you should get to know with the Blackhawks are Tanner Guile at running back and linebacker. He's a junior that comes in at 5'7", 165 pounds, has a lot of strength behind him, been putting a lot of work in the weight room. And then Wesley Logeman is also up and coming on the offensive and defensive lines, a junior at 230 pounds. You take a look at Stockton's schedule. They start off the season at home with Forreston, and then they go to week 2 to EPC. Week 3 they return home for Dakota. Week 4 they're on the road at Galena. Week 5 they come back home for West Carroll. Week 6 they head to Fulton. Week 7 they have their non-conference game that they host with Fieldcrest. Week 8 they head over to Galena Winslow for that rivalry game, and Week 9 they finish on the road with Du-Pec. So they have quite the schedule in front of them. It's not going to be an easy run. Most of the teams in the NUIC, it won't be an easy run, as having 9 teams in the conference, you're going to play 8 conference games anyway. Their non-conference game with Fieldcrest, that's a game that they won handily last year. Expect the same out of that game this year. Some games that we can see being bubble games that Stockton really needs to win in order to make that playoff eligibility come to focus are going to be games with Dakota, Forreston, Fulton, and then if they and Galena, and then if they can put up challenges with conference frontrunners Lena Winslow and Du-Pec, that will definitely tell the tale of the tape for the Stockton Blackhawks in 2022. Overall, we expect Stockton to definitely be more competitive this season, provided that they can stay healthy. Having an enrollment of only 173 kids and having 47 kids out seems to be the staple that Stockton continues to build on, being one of the smallest schools in Class 1A, still playing 11-man football, and being one of the biggest teams as far as overall numbers of participation as well. It really speaks volumes for the Stockton community, their history, and the legacy that the Blackhawks have put out, as they have collected over 600 career wins in school history and sit number one atop the NUIC during that time span as well. Overall, our expectations for Stockton is to be in that 4-5, 5-4 mix. They have the potential of being 3-6 again. They could have the potential of getting to 6-3, possibly 7-2. So there's a good mix of area there that Stockton could definitely fall into, provided that they get everything moving in the right direction, as offensively and defensively. They have the pieces put in place. It's just how much can they really build upon that and increase their level of play from a season ago. The next team we're going to be talking about are the West Carroll Thunder. West Carroll returns from taking a year off a season ago. In the 2021 COVID spring season, they canceled their last game due to injuries, and then due to numbers and overall level of inexperience, they decided to sit out the 2021 fall season and play a JV schedule only. They now come back in 2022, and they are replacing East Dubuque on the schedule, as East Dubuque has dropped out of the NUIC to join Hazel Green Southwestern in a co-op with the Six Rivers team, and play in that conference in Wisconsin for this season and probably a few more down the road. But they are assuming East Dubuque's schedule, and with that, in speaking with Coach Teo Clark, he understands that it's no secret West Carroll's in a complete rebuild. Obviously, it was not his intention when he took over the job, coming from Georgia, where he had coached previously, but he does enjoy the challenge. Obviously, a lot of programs in the NUIC are feeling a drop in numbers and a drop in enrollment, and especially with COVID behind us, there's a lot of recovery in order to get football numbers back up to where they once were. But he knows that they are a very young team. They do have very few committed seniors. They only have 3 that are going out for football this year, and they graduated 1 senior from a season ago. What he feels are his keys to success in 2022. They are a young team. They need to be able to discover their own identity as they move into the season. On offense, they're going to have the ability to throw the ball. They have a couple big linemen, but with only 1 full year of weight room activity, it's going to be difficult for them to establish the run game early on. And he understands, because he has paid attention to the conference while taking a look at what they've had to go through. But they have to be able to run the football in order to have success in the NUIC. On offense, they're going to have to be able to take what the defense has given them. And then, defensively, they're going to have to focus on alignment and assignment first and foremost. They're going to have a relentless pursuit of the football once the ball is snapped. And while that sounds cliche, in West Carroll's case, it's definitely really true. In order for them to see success, they have to be able to attack those areas and be able to get to the ball. They're going to have to make plays to get the ball back offensively to help try to slow down the pace of the game and make themselves formidable within the game plan that they can have. They have to be able to be sound and execute in every phase of the football game to give themselves an opportunity to win games. Um, According to Coach Clark on offense, some of the impact players that he's going to have are junior QB A.J. Boardman, wide receiver and running back sophomore Angel Garcia, and then offensive lineman Adair Pempleton, who is also a sophomore. On defense, he's going to be leaning on a couple juniors in Austin Lair and Laith Al-Saidi. Both are juniors. Austin will be playing D-end. Laith is going to be a linebacker. And then also sophomore defensive lineman Aiden Weist. One of his top newcomers is going to be a wide receiver in Rafe Pickard Shington, who's a sophomore as well. So you just hear sophomore, junior. A lot of youth here with West Carroll that they're going to have to be able to continue to build on in order to see success for 2022, but more so build that success moving forward into 2023 as you continue to gain experience going forward. Obviously, one of his team strengths that Coach Clark has listed is that their youth and inexperience at the varsity level, so he does expect to see a lot of growth as they move through the season. West Carroll, if you take a look at their schedule, there again, it's not going to be easy. They start off with Du-Pec on the road right out of the gates. They return for their home opener on September 2nd with Fulton. Then they host Abingdon Avon in week 3. That was a team who made the 1A quarterfinals just a season ago. They will then also follow that home game up with another home game in week 4 with Lena Winslow. Then in week 5 they head to Stockton. Week 6 they host Forreston. Week 7 they host EPC. Week 8 they host Dakota. And then in week 9, they are back on the road with Galena. So the one advantage that they do have is that they have 6 home games slated on schedule. Usually you get 5. But they're able to pick up that 6th one with that non-conference game with A-Town. So that'll be a good fit for them to be able to stay home as much as often and maybe, drive a little bit from being able to play in front of their home fans on their home field. Obviously, like Coach Clark has stated, on our end, we don't expect to see a whole lot of big-time success out of West Carroll, but it is great to have West Carroll back in the NUIC schedule, and it'll be interesting to see how they can grow and mature as the season goes on, because the more they can put into this season, the better off you'll see that transpire as they move forward into 2023 as well. And you never know, any given Friday people will show up and surprise you. They're definitely going to have to get a lot of youth to build up to that varsity level and get that experience that they truly lack for not having a varsity season for pretty much the majority of 2 seasons. The next team we're going to look at are the EPC Wildcats. A season ago, EPC went 1-8. Didn't have a whole lot of success. Were pretty much dominated in many facets of the game, getting their 1 win in their last game of the season in a non-conference game. This year, in order to have some success in 2022, Coach McNutt understands the need to get the run game going. Up front, they need to be able to be tough and quick without much size. Their defense needs to play fast and physical in order to keep some of the more powerful running teams at bay, which in Coach McNutt's opinion is most of the teams in the conference, and quite honestly, he's not wrong there. Some players that he's definitely high on, impact players on offense, are going to be Carson Heron at quarterback. He's going to be a first-year starter at quarterback. He is a senior this year. At running back, you're looking at Maddox Hayden, who ran for 412 yards a season ago, has 7 touchdowns under his belt. And at tight end, Mac McCullough, who had 64 yards receiving a year ago, was used more as an additional offensive lineman more than anything, but can get downfield, make a play with his hands, be able to get some blocking downfield as well. On defense, he's definitely looking for big plays out of Brady Schweitzer at defensive back. Cade Monks is going to join the defensive line. And then he's looking for Tanner Purdue at linebacker, who had 33 tackles a season ago. And another linebacker spot is Hayden again, who also is their leading tackler coming back for this year with 34 tackles. Some top newcomers that Coach McNutt's going to rely on are running back, linebacker, and sophomore Jackson Kemple, Brady Schweitzer, who is going to be a DB and on defense, and then a running back / wide receiver on offense. He's a junior. And then he's also looking at defensive lineman tight end Jaden Downs to step in and pick up some big minutes for the Cats this year. He feels that some of his strengths that he has is team speed should be positive, and he's looking for a big defensive effort out of his defense. He feels that they can hang their hat on the defense with some experience coming back there. And one of those things that you're looking at when you have a very good defense is how can they change the landscape of the game. Be able to get those third down stops, force punts, change field possession by not giving up big plays. And then the turnover game, being able to force turnovers to set yourself up for scores and or better field position, offensive success on the other side of the ball. EPC is going to also have a very tough schedule. Once again, they're going to start right out of the gates with Lena Winslow in week 1. They return home for Stockton in week 2. Then they head to Forreston in week 3 and head to Du-Pec in week 4. So those first 4 games are pretty much a hard part of the gauntlet that they have in their season schedule. They got to be able to steal a game or two out of that first 4 weeks in order to see an opportunity to truly make a playoff run in 2022. Week 5, they host Dakota. Week 6, they head to Galena. Week 7, they will travel to West Carroll. Week 8, they go to Fulton. And then Week 9, in their non-conference game, they play host to Chester, who is down by the St. Louis area, one of the few 1A schools there south of St. Louis. Across that corridor going east to west in Illinois. So that'll be an interesting game. Haven't seen Chester up here in the past. I've only ever seen them recently in the playoffs. Most notably, I think the last time we saw them have some sort of success was 2017 or 18, but they lost it to Tuscola in the first round of the playoffs. Again, EPC has a tough road ahead of them. Some games that they can look at that they need to be able to get some additional wins are going to be games with Stockton, Dakota, Galena, and Fulton. If they can get 3 out of those 4 games in their favor, they should have a good look at a playoff picture. But going into 2022, I'm not so certain that the playoffs are going to be within their grasp, but you never know. A defensive team can do a lot of surprises for you. We've seen defense win a lot of games over the years. just by being able to keep the game close. And I think that's what Coach McNutt's expecting with having the team speed and the physicality and be able to play up front. So we'll see how the Wildcats do, and look forward to another fun-filled, action-packed season from EPC. Our next team are the Dakota Indians, and Dakota comes into 2022 as a team that has a lot of talent as far as skills positions are concerned, but they're definitely going to have some areas to fill on both the offensive and defensive lines. Last year, Dakota finished the season 2-7. There was a lot of speculation and talks going on about the potential of Dakota moving to 8-man football. With that, there was a coaching change among the offseason as Joe Free resigned his position as the head football coach, and Dakota went to hire former defensive coordinator Dan Sheets to take over the Indian program. And with that, he also brought with him more players to go around. His numbers are up to 52 numbers this season from right around 33, 34 numbers just a season ago. So strength in numbers for the Indians as we look ahead into the 2022 season. And it's definitely brought a lot of excitement around the Dakota program. Some of the key players that Dakota is going to return are running back Adrian Arellano, who had 444 yards with 4 touchdowns a season ago. Tug Dornick returns at wide receiver / tight end. He had 134 yards receiving with 2 touchdowns. Caden Niedermeyer is going to return at quarterback. He had 318 yards passing with 2 touchdowns a season ago on 29 of 74 passing. So with the Indians, they're going to look to run the ball a little bit more. One of the things that they're going to look at doing is moving Tommy Bowman, who returns from a backup QB role to fullback. And then one of their newcomers that they're adding to the mix is Phoenix Blakely, the 3-time state champ wrestler, is going out for football for his senior year, and he's going to be looking to fill a spot as a wingback in Dakota's offense. On defense, the Indians return Arellano as well, who was one of the leading tacklers in the conference with 100 tackles overall. Tommy Bowman will be back. He had 41 tackles a season ago. At defensive back is Case Rocky. He had 39 tackles a season ago. Look for Case to be one of the best cover corners in the conference this year. D lineman Connor Matthews returns. You got Tug Dornick returning at linebacker. Garrett Vincent is on the D-line, and Jake Taylor returns on the D-line. So the defense for Dakota has a lot of strengths to it. With some newcomers in Cade Vach at linebacker, Nolan Mayberry at defensive back, and Phoenix Blakely at defensive back, and then Noah Wenzel as state champ wrestler is going out for football. And there's going to be a lot of expectations from him on the defensive line and the offensive line for that matter. Overall, Coach Sheets is very excited with what he has. Obviously, the speed of Dakota is one of the forefronts to the success that the Indians can have in 2022. Being able to move the ball around, he's going to go with a whole new offensive scheme, go back to run first threats where he can run that double wing offense, get the fullback and the halfback going. Obviously, everybody is going to be keying on Adrian Arellano early on, as he will be the feature back, the one back that they need to shut down. But at the same token, if he can get other pieces of that going with Bowman and Blakely and whoever else he fills in those positions, you can expect to see Dakota have more success moving the ball. One of the biggest weaknesses that they have, though, is what we stated already, the offensive line. They have to be able to get the strength and the speed to come off the line in order to make holes available for the run game to work. Obviously, they're excited with what they've seen over the past 2 weeks, as they should be. But at the same token, you got to keep developing it and keeping that strength going forward. It's no lost secret. Dakota has not been one of the strongest teams over the past 2 seasons. It's been 4 seasons now since we last saw Dakota in the playoffs. Obviously, they missed out in 2019, 2021, and then the COVID season, there were no playoffs. So I guess that's 3 seasons, but either way, it's been a bit since we've seen Dakota in that playoff hunt. They're hoping to get back to that state this year. Their schedule, again, for the most part, some of it's favorable. They're going to go into Chicago in week 1 and play Christ the King. Week 2, they'll play host to Lena Winslow. Week 3, they're going to head to Stockton. Week 4, they're going to play host to Forreston. Week 5, they will travel to EPC. Week 6, they will play host to Du-Pec. Week 7, they play host to Galena. Week 8, they go to West Carroll, and Week 9, they play host to Fulton. So you got 5 games at home for the Indians, and all 5 of their games that are at home were the playoff teams from a season ago. So if there's some things to look forward to, is that you're hosting all 5 of the conference powers at your place, so you get that home field advantage. Couple games that they're going to have to look forward to be able to make that push for the playoffs. Obviously, they beat Stockton a season ago, but that's going to be another game that they need to put down on their schedule as a must-win game. Galena is a team that they lost to a season ago, 20-0. So how can they get that game to be closer and into their favor? They're going to have to look at Fulton and Forreston as other games that, if they can change the outcomes of those games, you could see Dakota anywhere from 5-4 to 7-2. Again, it's going to depend on their line play. At the skill positions, Dakota has the talent. They have the ability to make plays, but without a line, both offensively and defensively, you're not going to see much success. So those are the biggest points that Dakota has to have in order to change their outcomes. But like I said, a lot of excitement in Dakota. The players are excited for the season. The coaching staff seems to be coming along very well under Coach Sheets. A lot of people helping out. We've even seen former Dakota head football coach Jerry Lano return to the mix as far as helping out with the Indians from time to time, as he has some availability in retirement, and he wants to see Dakota return to the top of the conference as well. So excellent to see Coach Sheets get Coach Lano back involved with the program in some extent, and it's really helping build their excitement, and you can feel it. It's just how much can they get this into level of play. And like I said, you're going to find out through the first 4 weeks where Dakota stands, having Lena Winslow, Stockton, Forreston in weeks 2, 3, and 4. We're going to move forward with the Galena Pirates. Talking to Coach Freed, obviously he has some keys to success are going to be having to replace a lot of senior starters from last year's playoff squad. But they do return quite a few players that have experience and are ready for their opportunity to step in to fill those roles. They're going to have good size up front with Will Anderson, Nicholas Hanfelt, Cooper Einsweiler, Colby Knauts, Ashton Sproul, Keaton Bauer, and Josh McNett hoping to lead that way. Obviously, they're going to return speedster running back Sam Eaton, along with Jack Reese, who also received some experience a season ago. Rounding out the quarterback and receiver positions are going to be John Wubin, Ali Al-Hamdani, Caleb Mulhype, Ryan Stoffgren, and Roman Romer. Obviously, one of the biggest keys for the Pirates is developing depth with their younger guys and being able to stay healthy, as it is important for them on the offensive side of the ball because of the depth that they have to replace from a season ago. Defensively, Reese returns at linebacker with Wubin, Stoffgren, and Tanner Wienen. Some newcomers to look forward to are going to be Lucas Dugan and Zach Heller, looking to provide and fill in depth at the positions. In the backfield, in the defensive backfield, you're going to see Eaton and Mulhype, and then Al-Hamdani. And then you got Romer and Miles Schumacher as newcomers that he's going to be relying on to fill some spots. The defensive line is going to be the strength of their defense, as they have very good size and athletic ability in Hanfeld, Anderson, Bauer, Knauts, and McNett. Obviously, Galena's had a lot of size over the past couple years. We saw a very good spring season out of Galena where they went 5-1. This past season in 2021, they went 5-4. They made the playoffs, lost in the first round to Forreston. Very good game, excellent game. Just came up a little bit short. They're hoping to build off the confidence that game brought. Coach Fried has felt that they've had a great summer preparing for what they have, good team chemistry, good work ethic, and a lot of players ready to step into new roles and accept their responsibilities as part of the Pirates football program. You take a look at overall, Sam Eaton, like we said, returns at running back. He had 482 yards a season ago. On defense, Jack Reese had 43 tackles. So not a lot of people that have big numbers jumping off the plate coming back for the Pirates. But like Coach Fried said, you got a lot of people that are stepping in with Sproul, Stoffgren, Knauts. Keaton Bauer is one of their leading tacklers that's returning. Mulhype, Wubin, Wienen, Hanfeld, Einsweiler. And it's one of those things I always laugh at when you go through schedules and then you go through rosters and you start hearing names of teams that have had a lot of success in the years, and Galena is definitely one of those teams that is typically towards the conference, top of the conference over the last 30-some years. But the names that you hear are names of past successful teams that Galena has had. And usually, more times than not, that usually tends to translate into more success coming down the road. We'll see how that all plays out. But some other newcomers that Coach Fried is high on is Josh Hernandez, who's a sophomore, running back, defensive back. Alfredo Jimenez, also a wide receiver and defensive back, a sophomore. Rylan Miller, a sophomore at linebacker and tight end. And Sean Davis is a sophomore, offensive line, defensive line. So he's excited with the numbers that he has out. Obviously, his picks to win conference is still Lena Winslow, as they are the favorite and the returning state champs. But he also feels that there are a number of teams that will have the ability to contend, as the NUIC once again looks to have great balance and will continue to be one of the best conferences in the state. And to be quite honest, I agree with him 100%. I think that you have Lena Winslow as your top. You know that West Carroll will most likely be at your bottom, and in the middle, it's going to be a dogfight week in and week out. And if you take a look at Galena's schedule, they're going to open up on the road with Fulton. Then they come home to play Madison. They travel to Lena Winslow in week 3. Week 4, they're going to play host to Stockton. In week 5, they go to Forreston. So they're going to get three to four teams right off the first 5 weeks on their schedule, and that's going to be a good springboard for where we can see Galena at as the season goes forward, with Fulton, Lena, Winslow, Stockton, and Forreston. If they can come out of that with at least a 2-3 record, more favorably a 3-2 record, the chances of the Pirates getting back to the playoffs is going to be very high. You look at where they round out the last 4 weeks, they will play host to EPC. Week 7, they will travel to Dakota, and then week 8 and 9, they will play host to Du-Pec and West Carroll, respectively. So definitely the last half of that schedule is definitely in their favor. As stated, you got to get to 2-3 or 3-4, or 2-3 or 3-2 through that first 5 weeks. And if they can hit that number, getting to the playoffs is definitely in their favor. But some of the key games that they're going to definitely have to play up big on will be Fulton in week 1. They got to be able to get Stockton again in week 4. You got to play competitively with Forreston in week 5. Dakota's going to be up and coming. So, and I mean, they beat them a season ago, 20-0. But looking at the differences and who Galena was a season ago and who Dakota was a season ago, that game was probably a little bit closer than it should have been. But you got to be able to get Dakota. And then you have Du-Pec in week 8. So you got a lot of good games there for the Pirates. That like I said, those first 5 weeks, that's going to be the pivotal 5 weeks that Galena has. You can mark up Madison as a win, is provided that Galena shows up and plays. Madison has not beaten an NUIC team in its history. It's been, and they played each other a season ago, and it was a runaway game then. Expect the same this time. Both Fulton, Lena, Winslow, Stockton, Forreston got to come out of there 2-3 minimum, preferably 3-2. If you don't, your chances of getting to playoffs are going to look pretty slim for the Pirates. We're going to move to the southwest corner of the NUIC and take a look at the Fulton Steamers. A season ago, they finished the season at 9-3, losing in the quarterfinals to Lena Winslow. Take a look at Fulton over the past 7 seasons. They've made the playoffs in 6 of them. 5 straight playoff appearances, going for their 6th straight. They are 39-21 since 2016, and that includes their COVID season where they went 4-1 in the spring of 21. You take a look at a lot of things that Fulton has coming back, and part of that team strength is the ability to rely on their seniors for leadership. Coach Lower has 19 seniors that are returning, and they've all played for many years together. They're going to need that strong leadership because the rest of their team is pretty inexperienced as far as having varsity football experience under their belt. Obviously, likewise on the weaknesses of the team, the concerning thing for them is that they have a lot of seniors on the team, but even out of that group of seniors, some of those guys have very limited action in varsity football. Each of their past 2 seasons, they had very senior-dominant teams, and their hope is that these seniors have learned over those past seasons from those teams and can put their own stamp on the 2022 season. Coach Lower exudes confidence in the conference, as we keep hearing from a lot of coaches. Obviously, everybody knows that the NUIC is loaded with quality football programs, and obviously the NUIC sends multiple teams to playoffs every season. Coach Lower has noted that in 2022 he has a very tough schedule, and they're going to play 7 teams that have won state championships over the years. And out of those 7 teams, 6 of them have won multiple state championships. So they have a very action-filled schedule here. A lot of strength in that schedule. Obviously, his goals with the Steamers is to work hard as they try to get better each day and every week, and they want to be competitive with every team that they play. He feels that they can work hard and have great preparation, and like I said, build off the experience that they have. 19 seniors who have been able to, if not play full varsity schedule, they've been a part of the program each of the past 2 seasons where they've seen a lot of success and are able to build up on that. You take a look at what they have returning on offense. You have Braden Damoff on the offensive line, 6 foot, 265 pounds. You have Ethan Price returning at tight end. Ryan Eads at running back. Ryan had 186 yards rushing last year and 2 touchdowns, so he didn't get a whole lot of experience at running back, but he did fill in a couple places there. Balin Damoff at wide receiver. He's a junior coming back, 6'6", 190 pounds. Balin did lead the team in receiving yards with 335 yards and 4 touchdowns. So that's a good piece there. Obviously, one of the top returners coming back for him is going to be, or one of the newcomers coming back for him is going to be quarterback Braden Dykstra, who did fill in for Patrick Lower last year when he was out for an injury. Went 27 for 34 passing for 438 yards and 4 touchdowns. So while he doesn't have a whole lot of varsity experience, the little bit of action he did see in the couple weeks that Lower was out, he put up some very good numbers at the quarterback position, and that's something that Fulton is looking forward to having back out of Braden this year, is that ability to play quarterback and control the tempo of the offense. On defense, you have Braden Damoff returning at the defensive line. Zane Panel returns at the defensive line. Panel is their leading tackler, back from a season ago, had 76 tackles. Damoff had 54 tackles. At linebacker, you're going to have Balin Damoff, the junior, who recorded 42 tackles a season ago. And in the defensive backfield, you have Ryan Eads and Connor Sheridan returning. Eads had 74 tackles. Sheridan had 38 tackles a season ago. And some other guys that Coach Lower is definitely looking for are plays out of Lucas Schrader at running back and defensive line. Robbie Scheckler on the offensive and defensive line. Robbie had some good playing time last year for the Steamers. Joel Ford had quite a bit of playing time last year, looking to fill in roles on the offensive line and linebacker. Cole Skipper at linebacker. Dakin Pessman at tight end or defensive line. He's a senior. Ben Fostick is also a senior running back, linebacker. Trevor Teasman is a junior wide receiver, DB. Being in that wide receiver position, he's definitely going to look to fill one of those open voids that Fulton has to get filled in. Chris Carroll is a junior, offensive line, defensive line. And then junior Jimmy Crimmins at running back and linebacker. One of the things that Fulton does have that most teams in the conference don't is returning kicker Andy Quinage. Andy comes back as an all-conference kicker, has the range to be able to kick up to 50 yards. So, that definitely is a offensive weapon in its own right when you have a kicker that can kick from a good distance. You don't always have to get down the field to put the points on the board. You can get points through the kicking game, and that is definitely something that Fulton can lean on as one of the few teams that has that ability to do so. Looking at Fulton's schedule, as Coach Lower stated, it's not easy. They're going to start off at home with Galena in week 1. In week 2, they will travel to West Carroll. And then the gauntlet starts in week 3 with another travel game to Du-Pec. Then they're going to play host to Muskegon Catholic Central out of Michigan. Muskegon Catholic Central has won 6 state titles since 2008. Week 5, they're going to travel to Galena Winslow. Week 6, they play host to Stockton. Week 7, they'll go to Forreston. Week 8, they play host to EPC. And then week 9, they will travel to Dakota to finish out the season there. Again, a lot of good football games there for the Steamers. They don't get it easy with their non-conference schedule. Having Muskegon Central Catholic coming out of Michigan. Muskegon Central Catholic last won a state title in 2016. They have been in the quarterfinals each of the past 2 years. They play in Division 6 in Michigan, which is the equivalent of Class 3A in the state of Illinois. They are going to start the season rated in Division 6 number 7. So obviously the Crusaders definitely have another top tier rated team that they expect to have some good success on. So it'll be an interesting matchup to see how Fulton can handle that. Definitely a game Fulton's got circled on their calendar as a game that they have to be able to get up for. In order to see Fulton return to form, they're going to have to get the games with Galena, Stockton. They're going to have to play with Forreston. And they're going to have to be able to stave off, a Dakota. And then with Forreston, Galena Winslow, and Du-Pec, in order to have success, you got to play with the success of the powers of your conference. Fulton has been able to show that they can for the most part over the years, but they have to be able to do it once again. It's no unknown fact for Fulton. They've had to face tough schedules when they were in the Three Rivers Conference, and once again when they're in the NUIC. So it's nothing that they're not used to seeing. But having a lot of inexperience, despite a lot of returning players, it's going to take a little bit of time. So, the start of their schedule is somewhat favorable for the Steamers with Galena and West Carroll right out of the gates. That Galena game is definitely going to be something that they have to get that win. Last year was a close game, 15-14. They're going to have to get another one right out of the gates to get week 1. Then week 2, get that ball rolling, and now you can start seeing some of that confidence build up once they get a couple games under their belt. But definitely look forward to Fulton being in the state rankings to start the season. You take a look at the ratings, the Freeman ratings that Max Preps and Cal Preps put out, and Fulton is rated 3rd in Class 1A, right behind Forreston and Galena Winslow. So the expectation for Fulton is high. And it's all going to come down to how much can they bank on themselves to improve and get that experience under their belt quickly. Obviously, defensive-wise, they're going to have a very strong defense with a lot of returning players that contributed quite a bit off that quarterfinal team a year ago. So that will definitely play to the Steamers' favor there. And offensively, they just got to keep the ball rolling, have some running backs fill in where they need to, especially at the fullback position with the loss of Keegan Van Kampen, and then get the playmakers going with Dykstra getting them the ball out in the open field. Going to move to the south where we're going to pick up 3-time state champion, the Forreston Cardinals. Obviously, Forreston had an 8-3 season just a season ago, losing in the second round to Galena Winslow 2 weeks after they had that upset win over the Panthers in Galena. And, they're going to be looking to build off of that as they move into the 2022 season. One of the things with the Cardinals that a lot of people kind of forget about or misconstrue is, they feel that Forreston is going to be down this year because of, how their fresh soft or JV team played a season ago. But, one of the things I always tell people is you can never translate the success of fresh soft to varsity and vice versa. In some cases you can, but there are a lot of times where, especially in football, you have freshmen and or sophomores that are playing up on varsity already, so they're not getting playing time at the JV/fresh soft level because of the rules that are in place now with how much contact you can have in a given week. So 20 years ago, it was easy to find a sophomore that was playing varsity, play the first 2 quarters of that fresh soft game, and then go play 4 quarters of varsity football. You can't do that anymore. They can only play, in one game or the other. So, if you have good fresh soft players that are contributing to varsity success, you're not going to see that success at the fresh soft level, most likely, as they're trying to develop and grow other players up as they move forward. So while your fresh soft may be destroying one team here, that other team that they're going to play 2 years down the road at varsity could be a totally different looking team once they add those already conditioned varsity players to that lineup. And that's what we see in Forreston year in and year out. They're one of the few teams that, you expect them to go into a down year, but you get to the next season and it's like, oh wow, Forreston's not down. They got more coming. And that's a credit to Coach Janicki and his staff that continue to develop their players through relentless weight room effort and conditioning, and keep growing on that. And one of the keys to success for the Cardinals, per Coach Janicki, is obviously staying healthy. They need to be able to limit all types of mistakes as much as possible, whether it be penalties, missed tackles, mental errors, and then they have to be physical and have relentless pursuit on defense. Obviously, some of the team strengths that he is looking forward to heading into the 2022 season is that they did lose 13 seniors that left some holes that need to be filled. But, as Coach Janicki puts it, he's very optimistic about this year's varsity team and the players that they have stepping up. More than he has ever seen before, his team energy and enthusiasm is through the roof right now. He says that he's had the best summer that he could in the weight room during their skills and camp practices, and then the camaraderie and discipline has carried over to the start of the season. So he's very optimistic with this group of seniors coming in, taking more responsibility, finding ways to coach up and encourage the underclassmen. And regardless of win or loss outcome, he feels that this is a team that will be, to the end, a very good team, and they're ecstatic about playing football. Some of those guys that he's definitely looking for to be impacts on offense are going to be senior QB Brock Smith, who missed most of last year due to a back injury. Running backs that are going to carry the load this year are going to be juniors Caleb Sanders and Micah Nelson, and then senior McKeon Crace. Moving to right tackle is going to be Ethan Bacher. He started at center a season ago. In the Forreston offense, I have to note, right tackle is an important position, dating far back as to Tanner Bronkema, who is one of my favorite baseball players back when I coached at Forreston a decade or so ago. But OT Bronk is definitely one of those guys that helped transcend the Forreston play into what it is today. He was a staple in that offensive line, and that discipline and degree of getting off the ball is definitely carried over year after year after year. And that right tackle position is a huge position for the Cardinals in their running attack offense. Obviously, at tight end, they're going to have Kyler Gans returning. He was a leader on their offensive line a season ago as well. On defense, some of their impact players are going to be Johnny Kobler. Johnny is, according to Coach Janicki, the most physical player on the team. They returned Casey DeVries, who definitely cemented himself on the defensive line a season ago. DeVries had 32 tackles. He's been playing varsity football since his sophomore season, and as Coach Janicki says, he is the last of the DeVries line of brothers coming through. So it's kind of ironic. Every other DeVries has won a state championship, so we'll see if that's in the deck for the Cards in 2022. Also on defensive line, they're going to return senior Drew Dieterman, who was a two-way starter a season ago, expecting to do the same things this year. Linebacker Quentin Frederick had his two best games against Lena Winslow last season, definitely played up to the level of the competition there. And then you have defensive back Peyton Enchef, who is Forreston's best coverage DB and probably definitely one of the top DBs in the conference. Had 4 interceptions and 3 pass breakups just a season ago. On offense, like I said, Caleb Sanders returning at running back had 375 yards and 6 touchdowns. Micah Nelson had 174 yards and a touchdown. McKeon Crace had 205 yards and a touchdown. Another player that will be getting some carries is going to be Quentin Frederick, who had 166 yards. And then defensively, like we said, Gans returns. He had 37 tackles. Kobler had 19 tackles. So, you know, while it looks like Forreston may be down because of everybody that they lost, you take a look at some of this stuff, and they're not really down. It's just different people having to fill in different roles. But a lot of these players are guys that played a season ago on that same Forreston team. So it's just how much can they continue to develop it. And by the sounds of what Coach Janicki stated, they have definitely bought into everything that they need to do. Some other newcomers that Coach Janicki is expecting a lot out of are senior right guard Alex Milnes, junior tight end and linebacker Andrew Wells, junior guard and defensive line Grant Johnson. Another guy that's going to be seeing some carries in the backfield, and we saw it get some last season, is junior running back and linebacker Owen Mulder. Defensive line junior Zach Schumann, junior running back and DB Alex Rhea, who also we saw do some things last year, and then senior defensive back Jace Ingbert, who got quite a bit of playing time a season ago as well. You take a look at Forreston's schedule, and as everybody else, you know, they have games against GCMS, who won state titles in 2017 and 18. They have Lena Winslow, who has won 5 state titles since 2010. You have Galena in there. Obviously, the rest of the NUIC contingent. So they're going to start off on the road in Stockton in week 1. They're going to play host to defending conference champion Du-Pec in week 2. Week 3, they'll play host to EPC in the Route 72 rivalry. Week 4, they're going to travel to Dakota. Week 5, they'll play host to Galena. Week 6, they'll go to West Carroll. Week 7, they play host to Fulton. Week 8 will be a Saturday game that they travel to GCMS. And Week 9 they're going to play host Galena Winslow. So, some of the games that Forreston definitely needs to get on, obviously, right out of the gates, they got to be able to get Stockton. Week 2, playing host to Du-Pec, you're going to have to play a big game with Du-Pec, be able to challenge them and play physically up front. Week 3, EPC. Week 4, that could be one of those trap games. Forreston's had a lot of success over Dakota. I believe the last time Dakota beat Forreston was the 2015 season, where Dakota won in the regular season 34-0, but then Forreston won in the first round of the playoffs 8-0. And so Forreston's had Dakota's number over the past few years. Week 5 is Galena, where Forreston again has had Galena's number over the past few years, but in recent history they've had some close games. Obviously, the 2014 semifinals was a very good game. Last season in the first round of the playoffs was another very good game. They've had a few others that have been somewhat close, but overall Forreston has dominated Galena in recent years. Week 7 with Fulton is another game that they're definitely going to have to play up in. And then you finish out with GCMS and Galena Winslow. So you got Fulton, GCMS, and Galena Winslow. So really, Forreston's gauntlet is at the end of the season. All 3 of those teams are expected to be in the state rankings at some point or another in the season. Don't look past GCMS. Just because last year Forreston was able to get that very easy 36-6 win, there's a lot of anticipation and hype around the Falcons this year in 2022. They have a very good team coming back. They have a lot of experience under their belt. They did get a coaching change as Mike Allen retired from coaching, and defensive coordinator Chad Augsburger has stepped in to become the new head coach of the Falcons. So it's going to be same old status quo with GCMS. And, the Falcons have definitely been one of the best teams as far as strength and conditioning has been concerned over the years as well. And in their conference, the HOIC, a lot of teams are looking forward to GCMS being at the top of the conference. And not only that, but with where their enrollment is this year, if GCMS does make the playoffs, they are going to be in Class 1A because their enrollment's sitting at like 301. So GCMS gets in the playoffs, they're going to be in Class 1A. So it's going to be another definite game to look forward to on the Forreston schedule. You'll take a look at some of these games that we have projected for Forreston to win, and you have Stockton, which is we expect Stockton to be better. Dakota, which we expect Dakota to be better, and Galena, another team that they made the playoffs for the first time in quite a few years, but they're also building upon a lot of things. So Forreston's definitely going to have their hands full. And they're going to have to play every week like it's a must-win game. And, that doesn't change anything from what Coach Janicki expects out of his team either. So nothing new, business as usual for the Forreston Cardinals. A trip to the northeast of the conference takes us to Durand and Pecatonica, where the Du-Pec Rivermen are coming into the 2022 season as the defending conference champions, winning their first conference championship a season ago, going 8-0 in the NUIC, with their lone loss coming to St. Teresa in the regular season in Week 5, before bowing out to IC Catholic in the second round of the Class 3A playoffs. Obviously, some of the keys for success for Coach Hoffman and the Rivermen is how to replace the guys that they lost. They have to be able to have some guys fill into some pretty big roles with the guys that they've lost. You know, you lost Jake Anderson, you lost Hunter Hoffman, you lost Trent Taylor, um, and a couple others as well. Bo Seaton, and there's a couple others I'm forgetting their names. But either way, um, you have to be able to fill those roles. The biggest question is how quickly they can effectively fill those roles, especially with a lot of those roles being filled by juniors and sophomores. Now, that's not to take anything away from Du-Pec. Let's not get lost on the fact that that junior and sophomore class has a lot of talent in it. Do they have the varsity experience? Not so much. But there's a lot of hype around this sophomore and junior class that will help contribute to the senior leadership that Du-Pec does have. Obviously, on offense, some key players that Coach Hoffman's looking to lean on is that of running back A.J. Mulcahy, who returns after rushing for 546 yards and 5 touchdowns a season ago. On the offensive line, you're going to have Breon Green. And then at quarterback is going to be Will Howard, who a season ago was playing wide receiver, where he collected 214 yards receiving with a touchdown. On defense, expect the same thing. A.J. Mulcahy, who is the leading tackler, returning from the Rivermen a year ago with 87 tackles. Breon Green on the defensive line returns with 47 tackles. And then you got Caden Degner coming back at his linebacker position, where he collected 65 tackles a season ago. Some newcomers that Coach Hoffman's going to be relying on are Drew Williams, Cooper Hoffman, Eric Kermitsky, Jalen Nowd, Max Milbrath, Brody Black, Jackson Diedrich, and Braden Hughes. Again, a lot of those juniors and sophomores that we were just talking about that he's expecting to fill in big roles in order for them to have some good play moving forward into 2022. One of his team strengths that Coach Hoffman is excited about is his overall depth, especially at the skilled positions. Obviously, the Rivermen have a lot of good numbers out once again for the football program, which is a huge pickup from where the Rivermen were a few years ago when they first started the co-op to where they are now. You know, we started to see that transformation in 2019. It carried over into that spring COVID season, and then 2021, the fall season, definitely picked up and put Du-Pec on the map where we expected them to be, probably a little bit faster than was anticipated as well. But make no doubt about it, the Rivermen have arrived officially. They are here. There's a lot of excitement around the overall program. There's a lot of buy-in to the program, which we continue to talk about. But when you take a look at top programs in the NUIC and the teams that are doing it right, you know, we talk about Lena Winslow, we talk about Forreston, we talk about Fulton, and Du-Pec's definitely into that mix, if not right there at the top of the mix. So, you know, they're doing everything the right way, and it's really a lot of fun to see. Taking a look at Du-Pec's schedule, you know, they're going to have some good games that they're going to have to definitely get again with Forreston, Fulton, Lena Winslow, and then you gotta take a look at some of their others that they have on schedule that you expect them to win, but they have to be prepared to win those games, because if they're not, they could get surprised, and that's going to be the upcomers in Stockton and Dakota, and then of course they have their non-conference game in Week 5 with Knoxville. The Blue Bullets were just in the playoffs a season ago, and they're looking to be like another potential for a top team in Class 2A coming out of the Lincoln Trail Conference. And that'll be an intriguing game to see because Knoxville likes to run a wishbone style or double wing style offense. They like to run the ball, similar to what we see a lot of teams do, is especially in Lena Winslow and Forreston. It's a look that we're going to see coming out of Dakota, and we've seen it from Stockton as well. So, taking a look at the rest of the schedule, Du-Pec is going to open up at home with West Carroll. Week 2, they travel to Forreston. Week 3, they will play host to Fulton. Week 4, they play host to EPC. Week 5 is that travel date to Knoxville. Week 6, they will go to Dakota. Week 7, they'll play host to Lena Winslow in a highly anticipated matchup. I'm sure that one's circled on everybody's calendar as game of the year. In the conference, at least it was last year. Don't expect anything less again this year. Week 8, they will travel to Galena, and then Week 9, they will play host to Stockton. Again, expect to see Du-Pec towards the top of the conference. Big games that they have to have, like we stated, Forreston and Fulton, they have those guys each in the first 3 weeks. So we'll see how Du-Pec comes out of that first 3 weeks. If they come out 3-0, then you know that you're looking at something very good there. Come out 2-1, we're going to see a little bit more parity in the conference, which we do expect to see. More parity from top to bottom within the conference in 2022. And then, at Week 7 game with Lena Winslow is definitely going to be key. And then, of course, you have Galena sitting there the week after that. So you got to come out of that game with Lena Winslow healthy, because then you got Galena sitting there the very next week waiting for their shot too. So a lot of hype around Du-Pec and their underclassmen being able to take what they have talent-wise and join it with their current seniors and keep that Rivermen Express moving forward. Well, the last team that we have are the Lena Winslow Panthers. Obviously, Lena Winslow comes back after going 12-2 and winning their 5th state title. One of the biggest keys to success for Lena Winslow in 2022 is to stay healthy and have their young guys and newcomers quickly accelerate their learning curve to match that of the upperclassmen. If they can do that, you can definitely expect to see some big things happening for the Panthers in 2022. They have a lot of strengths in numbers. Their total number count between juniors and seniors is at 32 players, so they definitely have a lot to build on there. It's no secret that Lena Winslow is definitely the top pick for the conference this year. They have in the ratings, we said it a while back ago where Lena Winslow is probably a 2-touchdown favorite over the conference this year, and that's just based off the ratings. The ratings tell you where they're rated at to start the season, based off of information that is compiled from what they did a season ago, what they have returning for this season, and what the schedule looks like comparatively to that of the rest of the Class 1A field as well. And obviously, you still have to make things happen. You can't just go out there and rely on ratings and or rankings to get you a win. You have to go out there and play the game. We've seen that over the years. 2018 isn't too much of a distant memory for Lena Winslow Panther fans, as sure state championship quality team lost in the semifinals and had a state title basically taken away from them because they didn't match the intensity of a team that they played. But, you know, Lena Winslow is well aware of what they have to do in order to get to where they need to be, and that is playing for another state championship. Some of the key impact players on offense are going to include Jake Zeal, Gage Dunker. They received a transfer from Orangeville and Gunnar Lobdell. They have Jace Flynn returning, Aiden Packard, Drew Streckwald, and then, as Coach Aaron says, his entire offensive line. So obviously his success noticeably is through his offensive line. Without a good offensive line, all the other guys can't do what they need to do in order to have success. Defensive-wise, they're looking at playmakers in Henry Engel, Gage Dunker, Mason Smith, Sam Pecoraro, Hudson Neville, Gunnar Lobdell, Flynn, Zeal, Packard, Owen Gilbertson, Wes Offerman, and Nick Inden. And some of the top newcomers that Coach Aaron has listed are the transfer of Gunnar Lobdell, Drew Streckwald, Sam Pecoraro, Wes Offerman, Nick Inden, and Owen Gilbertson. Looking at some of what they have, obviously at running back with Gunnar Lobdell transferring in, he rushed for 2,703 career yards and 44 touchdowns in his time as an Orangeville Bronco. He brings that stat line with him to Lena Winslow for his senior year. Obviously, last season he ran for 2,389 yards and 42 of those touchdowns in the 8-man game, but it's still impressive numbers considering the fact that even in the 8-man game, he was basically a one-man band for the Broncos, keyed on in every game, and still was able to see a lot of success. So seeing him back in the 11-man game will be interesting to see how much he can help the Panthers, which is highly anticipated with his playmaking ability. Jake Zeal rushed for 336 yards and 4 touchdowns last year, his biggest one coming in the state championship game with the 60-yard touchdown run that put the first points on the board in that game. And then running back Gage Dunker, who really started to pick up pace as the playoffs came around, picking up 315 yards and 4 touchdowns on the season. On defense, Lobdell also brings with him 123 tackles from a season ago. That number impressive in its own right, being that was in 8-man football, where you definitely don't see defense stand out as much as you do offense, but he was able to make plays on both sides of the ball, and Lena Winslow is going to be looking for him to do the same thing in 2022. Gage Dunker returns with 73 tackles. Mason Smith at D-end with 48 tackles. Jace Flynn had 24 tackles, and Henry Engel had 23 tackles. Taking a look at Lena Winslow's schedule, they definitely have very good non-conference game in Week 6 with Marion Central Catholic. Marion Central Catholic used to be a Class 2A power back in the 80s. They're now a Class 4A squad. They play in one of the Catholic leagues out of the Chicago Catholic Leagues, the CCL. I believe they're now an independent team, so they're not affiliated with the conference, but they still fill up their schedule with a lot of top-level opponents. And that should be an interesting matchup. But Lena Winslow is going to start off the season Week 1 playing host to EPC, where they then travel to Dakota. They come back in Week 3 playing host to Galena, and then they travel to West Carroll in Week 4. So, out of the gates, Lena Winslow should have a fairly simple schedule, so to speak, before the toughest part of their schedule hits. Week 5, they're going to play host to Fulton. Week 6 is when they play host to Marion Central Catholic. Week 7 is that highly anticipated matchup with Du-Pec in Pectonica. Week 8, they'll play host to Stockton, and then Week 9, they travel to Forreston to finish out the regular season. So Lena Winslow definitely has the back half of their schedule heavily loaded with top-level opponents. Again, definitely can see some success early on from Lena Winslow, get some of that confidence built up in their playmakers, help accelerate that learning curve before you step into the gauntlet of your schedule. And if they can do that to the pace and expectation that Coach Aaron and his staff has, you can definitely see big things coming for the Panthers. Obviously, they are a heavy favorite once again to compete for and or win a Class 1A state championship. And that should be the ultimate goal and expectation for the Panthers heading into 2022. All right, so as we take a look at the breakdown of the NUIC, here's a look at where our projections have, which we've already posted these projections out on Twitter and Facebook. Coming in as conference champions, we have Lena Winslow with an 8-1 record, followed by Du-Pec also with an 8-1 record. Obviously, Lena Winslow's loss is expected to come from their non-conference opponent in Marion Central Catholic. Du-Pec's lone blemish coming to Lena Winslow in their Week 7 matchup. Forreston coming in at 7-2. Fulton at 5-4, followed by Dakota at 5-4. The difference with Fulton being that game with Muskegon Catholic Central in their non-conference game. Dakota expected to make the playoffs at 5-4, at least at this moment. Stockton coming at 4-5. Again, that's a team that provided they put all the pieces together. 5-4, 6-3 could be even a reality there. So don't want to put Stockton too far down, but right now we see them at 4-5, but they could be there. Another team that we have listed is Galena at 3-6. Again, another team lost a lot of talent. They have a lot of talent to replace from a season ago. That's why we have them at 3-6. But if they can get that talent built up with the players that they have returning, Galena 3-6 could be 6-3 as well. This is just where we have them predicted based off of what they do have coming back in the experience level that they have. EPC we have going 2-7, and West Carroll rounding it out with an 0-9 record. So as you can see in our image here, anything's possible. Right now, 5 teams is probably the safe bet to make the playoffs. Potentially, there is the opportunity to see a 6 team make the playoffs if like a Stockton or a Galena could knock off a Forreston or Du-Pec or both and grab a couple more wins than expected. And, we could potentially see a 6 team in the playoffs. I just don't think that's going to be the case. I feel that in order for a team in those lower rungs to grab that additional win, it would have to come from one of those top teams. And I feel that, the level of parity, while it's going to be more of a dogfight this year, week to week, Lena Winslow and Du-Pec are still definitely the front runners of the NUIC until somebody can knock them down. Now, it's not saying it's not possible. Obviously, you got to show up every Friday, but it's going to definitely be interesting to see. So that gives you a recap of our NUIC preview. Obviously, like we stated, a lot of great games to get out to this fall. A lot of energy around the NUIC once again, as it should be, as they're trying to chase their 6th straight state title and 16th title over the last 18 seasons. Obviously, being the top conference in Class 1A specifically, and the best small school conference in the state of Illinois, arguably. As always, we expect great football in Northwest Illinois. 2022 is going to be no different. Get out to the games. Get out, support every team that you can. Obviously, we want you to support your team. Get to those games. Fill those Friday night lights and stands. As always, root for the NUIC.